Привет всем! Welcome to this review looking at Hobbyboss 1/35 scale kit of the LKW 5-ton mill GLW, which is basically a truck fuel tanker. In addition to that as well, we're going to have a very quick look at these resin death model wheels. Hi guys, just very briefly, there's quite a few of these kits that have been released recently by Hobbyboss on this sort of chassis. This is the MAN chassis. This is the 5-ton, there's a 7-ton, there's an 8-ton or whatever. There's quite a few series. This is not a new kit, it's been out for quite a while. However, I really like it. I hope you do too. There is some blurb on the box. As usual, I will include this in the description so you can read it in your own time. There's a quick picture on there, and besides that, yeah, another profile view, and that's about it. So let's get this opened up and see what's inside. A fairly biggish box. First compartment here, they've got the nice parts inside here. We'll just take all these out and see what's inside here. As usual, instructions and sprues. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bags of sprues. Let's have a look at the instructions first, and then we'll have a look at all the parts in detail. Here's the instruction booklet. Quite a thick booklet. There is a lot to do in this kit. As usual, from Trumpeter Hobbyboss, you get a layout of all the parts. Useful, of course, to make sure that you have got all the parts. I've never had a problem with missing parts with these type of kits. Instructions are broken down in the typical way, lots and lots of sub-assemblies. Start off building up a typical like ladder frame construction, add in suspension components, and then we work towards the cab by step 9. There's a fully detailed interior cab, as we shall see, including doors and a roof hatch as well. Just mention briefly that this version as well, there's another version of just a normal cargo version, but this is the more complex kit you'll see in a couple of pages time. So by this stage, basically you've got your truck body together, the chassis and the cab, and then we go towards construction of, I think first of all, the pump unit, including the fuel reels. And you see all these detailed parts. They're all, you get everything, a complete system. And this is what you would, typically describe as a kit within a kit. You've got a very detailed fuel pump layout, and then you've got the tanks. And I believe that you get the 2 tanks are identical, so you make 2 off in this step here. These get mounted onto the flatbed. It's sort of like the skid-mounted unit. We had something called a UBRE, or UBRE, Unit Bulk Refueling Equipment, and this is the same sort of thing. Also note you got all tie-downs here to build all this up on the bed of the truck. More and more detail goes on. Here's the support structure that mounts it to the chassis. There's lots and lots of PE parts getting added on by this time. And all the underneath sort of component parts like spare jerry cans and some fuel and some tool bins as well. And then by step 38, they're showing you to mount the cargo bed onto the chassis. And I'll just sort of point out now as well that this build is being chosen by my patrons, who will, so it's going to be the next project. So as usual, we'll do a review, we'll do a build, and then we'll do a paint. And I'm going to sort of go through how this builds up. And also I want to make sure that this is a very important step here, of course, if you do all this work here, build up all the chassis, and then find you've got fit problems here, it will be a major headache. So we'll be checking all that out when we do the build portion. So what else have we got? As usual, you get a bunch of blurb, marketing type stuff. This of course includes the LKW. I think these are called Cat 1s as well, by Man. And there's it sort of showcases all the detail, and there's some blurb there. 2018, 2017 I think it has on the box. So not a new kit by any means. I haven't seen any reviews of this one yet, but maybe there are some. The markings are a Bundeswehr version, so you've only got that version included, which is the atypical tritonal NATO camouflage scheme. Notice the hazmat signs that they've got for the fuel tanker as well. I think it looks interesting. I don't know what you guys think, but there's only that single version depicted. If you know which other NATO countries are operating this vehicle, write down some comments below and I'll do some research and maybe we can vary the scheme. Anyways, let's have a look at the parts now. Okay, I'll start showing you the sprues. As usual, a general overview. This of course is the chassis ladder rack. There isn't a preformed chassis, so as usual the alignments and the construction has to be pretty much spot on, and as usual we'll go through that when we start the build portion. Let's zoom into the macro now, show you some detail. Just show you some of these parts. As usual, moulding is clean, sharp, flash free. Looks like part of the transmission here. Exhaust boxes or the silencer, axles, and of course that ladder frame that I mentioned. 2 times sprue, thus identical. Give you an overview. Suspension components on here. Let's zoom in again. There we can see the bolt detail on the wheels. There's the springs. They aren't too bad. I mean, for what you can do in plastic injection. I think you might get the feel for this now that this is a very detailed kit, many small parts to build it up. And if that's your sort of thing, as it is mine, you'll likely enjoy this kit a lot. 2 times sprue J, which make up part of the cargo body and the supports. We'll zoom in again, show you what's worthy of note on here. Okay, there we are. These look like wheel chocks here. Note this here, this grill part here. I don't know which part is exactly, but you can see how fine it is that that it is perforated. Notice the lightning holes as well on these members here that support the truck bed, and part of the truck bed sides here. Again, fine detailing. Note all these components on here, and also some jerry cans complete with the strap that holds them in place. I'll just show you here as well some very small components here. See where they go during the build. On this sprue we have the basic cab components and the doors. Zoom in again. These look pretty good. The interior of the door fully detailed. Here's the cab floor. Note the texture of the matting, which will be like a rubber matting inside there. And also worth to point out as well is the driver's console. Just flick this the other way up. And this is, yeah, I suppose it could be disappointing. This is the extent of the detail of the engine. All you've got is a representation of the sump. And believe it or not, that is the manifold, I believe, for the exhaust as well. What can you see of that, you know, when it's complete? Bearing in mind it's going to be up on its wheels. You won't see much of it anyways, but we'll check that out during the build. Getting a full engine in kits used to be a thing, Maybe they just don't have enough detail, maybe they don't want to cover it. We'll find out when it builds up, you know, if that's detrimental or not. So I'm not going to judge it too much at the moment. But, you know, with the amount of detail in here, I did expect a full engine, but that's what we have. Just wanted to point out, as usual, the packing is excellent on these kits, including this sprue here, entirely in a bubble wrap package in order to secure the parts from damage. And of course, let's zoom in for these fine detail parts. Okay, there we're looking at the light guards, the steering wheel. The wipers themselves actually look quite usable. They're quite fine. Of course, going to have to take care removing them from the sprue as always. But as you can see, the components on this sprue are very fine, very delicate. Noting these little grab handles here, all sorts of detail. If you don't like, you know, small parts, this might not be a kit for you. On this sprue, we've got the cargo bed. I thought it might be generic, but I don't think it is. As I was just showing the detail, because I think we've got the pump components are on this sprue as well. Let's zoom in and show you them. There we are, some great detail on the controls or whatever it is of that pump there, and the piping as well. So this is going to be quite fun to build up. Look at this part here as well, that individual part. You can see that is that's hollowed out, that little eyelet on top of that component, whatever it is, and these parts as well. Excellent detail. I'm already thinking about how I'll break down the build. Obviously it is going to be modular, but I also look towards how everything joins up at the final step. So that's what I'll be most concerned about when I'm building this kit. And just flick this over as well. This is where you would see all the KO marks, etc. This is going to be visible underneath again if you flick it underneath. I don't think you will see anything, because there's quite a lot of parts that need to get mounted onto here. So I think more important is to make sure you remove all the flash and make sure it's all sanded down so the parts will mount flush to the underneath of the cargo bay. Two sprues thus, which are the actual fuel tanks themselves. Not too much to know on this particular sprue, except there is an anti-slip pattern that's been depicted on top of the tanks themselves. And again, lots and lots of small little parts, including these little eyelets here. So yeah, as I've said several times, if you're not into small parts and lots of detail, maybe not for you. But if you do like extremely detailed models, as I do, with many parts, this might be the thing for you. Here we have the these are the tie-down ratchets. The fuel tank system, obviously, this isn't a this is a normal cargo truck which has skid-mounted fuel tank, so it's not a dedicated tanker. There's this little sprue here that just contains hub detail, and it looks like the sump of an engine. Not quite sure. Nothing really too important, but it just seems to be one individual bag of this one. Here are the transparent parts. I'll get my hand behind it so you can see what's on there. Of note, the headlights with the sort of diffused sort of pattern on it. The windows themselves, crystal clear as always, and various lights and indicators. Looks as if every part that should be transparent is transparent. Okay, we've got one hero part, as I like to call it. Inside here, this is the vinyl tubing that you wrap around the fuel to make up the fuel hoses. So you get a big length of this, enough to actually, you know, use it if you're going to use it in a diorama context, actually refueling a vehicle, or you can just simply wrap it around the fuel drums. Let's see what's inside here. This is, it says MAN 5 ton. So this, obviously, a single slide molded cab makes things pretty easy. Note the cleanup that you have to do around here on this fender portion around here. And especially of note as well, they've actually got the MAN logo embossed on the front of the cab. You know, obviously they're not wary of the trademark implications of that, but obviously as modelers we're glad to see that they have included that detail, you know, the actual manufacturer's logo on the vehicle. There's some detail on the top there, some anti-slip and some sort of grill type patterns, and of course this here is where you would have the roof hatch, and you could get an MG3 machine gun peering out the top, but I don't think that's included, unfortunately. Quite a few frets of PE. Well, I've looked at this one. This is the biggest one. Quite a lot of bending and bits and pieces to do. I believe this is the sort of like ratchet straps and pieces like that, and also some parts that may or may not make up the mudguard. Those look as if they are part of the jerry cans, actually, the middle portion, and that chain there as well makes up part of the ratchet strapping to hold the skid units in place on the cargo bed. And you've got two off little frets inside here with quite small details, and that looks like a generic one for the MAN 5-ton truck, as does that one as well there. Note this grill here, nice bit of detail. So again, if you don't like detail, you don't like photo etch, maybe look the other way on this one, because there isn't any parts that will be alternative to these. You'll have to use the photo etch if you want to construct it. Inside here we have the water stickers, and these are usually pretty good. They seem quite clear. They've got nice bright colours, vivid colours for the hazmat markings and the license registration plates. Note the console water sticker there so that you can detail that up. It's pretty good, and also the markings for the tanks themselves. Point this out as well, they do include the masks for the transparent parts as like it's a paper medium. I've used these before on quite a few of the Trump tier type kits. They work perfectly fine, and to find them within the kit I think is really what all manufacturers should be doing nowadays, but they're not. And the final in the box component are these vinyl type wheels. Vinyl type wheels, pretty typical of Trump tier Hobbyboss. I have to say the tread detail is awesome. There's no parting seam down the middle, or if there is one, it's very, very slight. There is no sidewall, well, there is the sidewall ribbing, but there's no manufacturer's type date on there. But these look really, really good out the box. Of course, we've got our DEF wheels, so let's open these up and just do a quick side-by-side comparison. Okay, so a quick unboxing of the DEF model 5-ton sagged wheel set that are used for, they can be used on the Brevel kit as well. Brevel also does the 5-ton truck. They don't do a fuel tanker version, but inside here, what do you get? These are masks if you wish to use masks for the painting of the resin wheels. And again, we've got 5 times wheels. So one of these, in theory, there it is the spare. Now let's just zoom into these and show you how they look. Just show you one of these. These are one of the truck mounted wheels with the very subtle bulge. And look at all the nice hub detail and the logo. Now I'll just show you very quickly the spare. I'll just show you the spare side by side with the supplied vinyl one. And of course it's not a fair comparison, but also let's just point out that the actual supplied wheels are pretty awesome, to be honest. There's a little bit of a difference there, obviously. The diameter seems about the same, but maybe it's me, but they look a little bit wider profile. But the tread pattern on these are really, really good. They are pretty usable, but resin wins every time. Of course, on the flat as well, we haven't got the bulge. We haven't got the bulge on the bottom, and also we've got all the lock nut detail as well depicted. So that rounds off the review. Hope it was useful to you, and see you during the build, hopefully very soon.